Okay, folks, it's now 11 o'clock, so I like to start meetings on time, so let's get the ball rolling here. So good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are throughout North America. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedules today to join us for our webinar with David Kalish from Unitrends to talk about best practices for a stress-free data protection. My name is Scott Young, and I'm the COO and one of the partners at Optrics, and I'll be your host on today's seminar. I'm the guy on the left there on the front page. Now, we've found talking with people that most are thinking about protecting their organization's data from a disaster standpoint, and that could be anywhere from they think what happens if their building caught on fire or if they were flooded or taken out by a tornado. Now, obviously, these are devastating events, but chances of them happening are fairly low, and therefore most people adopt it'll never happen to me kind of stance, and therefore ultimately decide not to do anything. So yeah, you can see gamma rays are certainly up there. But what people really don't think about is that the fact is the true hidden gotcha is human error, and that could be whether it be on purpose or not. And what I'm talking about are staff members deleting files by mistakes or perhaps doing it on purpose if they're trying to cover their tracks on something that they shouldn't have done, staff losing files on computers crashing, and a myriad of other mistakes that we humans do, or a Cryptolocker here. So actually, David, if you can flip back to the second slide there, that'd be great. Yeah, there we go. So before I turn the presentation over to David, I just wanted to let you know who Optrics is, because some of you might not have heard of us before. So we've been around since 1995 selling IT solutions, and we're a network integrator with clients throughout North America and around the world. Our main focus is on wireless network security and certainly backup and storage, which is why we're having the conversation today, virtualization and VoIP phone systems, and then of course we wrap security around all of that. We also own and operate CUDAMail. Our clients are throughout, like I said, North America, and they're Fortune 500 companies, all levels of government, the military, school boards, universities, colleges, as well as small, medium-sized organizations. So we've obviously seen a lot of different networks and helped a lot of people out. I also want to mention that we own and operate CUDAMail, which is a managed spam filtering system and service. And of course, we're very happy to have Unitrends as one of our partners, because obviously they offer a simple, flexible, and elegant backup and recovery solution. And of course, if you're a member of Spiceworks, you'll have no doubt have heard of them before, because they're very active in this online community and receive rave reviews from the Spiceworks members. So without further ado, good afternoon, David, and thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. I will hand the reins over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Scott. I just want to do a quick audio check to make sure that everyone can hear me. Hopefully you can. I got a comment from Francis that he was having a little difficulty with the audio connection. Hopefully that has been resolved. If anyone has some additional problems, let us know. So exactly, we know from Unitrends is a backup and disaster recovery solution provider, and we get this question and comment all the time about how problems are occurring and what people are worried about. And just like this slide shows, the things that people are worried about, that the big terrors honestly don't happen as often as most people think. They do. They happen from time to time. We see floods. We're seeing some floods actually in the southeast United States right now. And we do see a lot of these issues. But by and far, the larger issue is individuals, whether it's a malicious issue or people just simply losing their files. Deleting a file accidentally happens all the time. Cryptolocker. Cryptolocker is a kind of like an up-and-coming problem. It's actually been around for a while, but basically this is a virus that will get onto a computer network and then lock and encrypt current systems, servers, or databases in your particular environment. And Unitrends, as a backup company, is trying to seize this a little bit more often. I do have some comments in here. Hang on one sec. Francis and Sophie are having a little difficulty hearing the connection. Let me write them a little note. Go to audio and dial into the WebEx, please. So if you're having difficulty hearing us, what we need you to do is we need you to connect to the audio connection within the WebEx bars from the top of your screen. So you'd go to the top, you would hit audio, and then you would connect to the WebEx. So I sent that out through chat, and I sent that out through Q&A. All right. So Cryptolocker, we see more and more clients that are having issues with this. In fact, I spoke with a customer actually about 2 months ago now, 3 months ago, and they had their environment infected by the Cryptolocker virus. And what happens is you get this big Cryptolocker screen when you log in, and it says that there's a private key that's available, and it'll be destroyed in a certain amount of time. And they literally ransom your own servers back to you. So this particular customer thought he had good backups, and he went to his backups to try to recover his data, but his backups weren't working correctly. So he had big problems. And eventually what he actually did is he paid the ransom. He paid $40,000 to get the access key to release all of his data, and he got the key, and the key worked. So he was, quote unquote, happy that he was able to get his data back, but he was furious that he had to ransom off his solution. Then the next day he contacted Unitrends for a more robust backup and disaster recovery solution. The next slide talks about actual much more frequent occurrences of backups and disaster recovery problems. And as you can see, the two bigger ones are human error and hardware failure. You know, an actual disaster where you have a fire, a flood, a meteorite, a volcano, whatever that type of natural disaster that people are worried about, is a very rare occurrence. Only 0.2% of actual data loss scenarios. So Unitrends wants to be able to help you with all of these common problems, make sure that you can back up your data, and more importantly, recover that data. You know, a lot of companies can do backup. Backup is relatively easy. It's the restore that's much more problematic. So Unitrends, our claim to fame is our customer support. We have an exceptional customer support team. It's all based in North America, and we have a 98% self-reported customer satisfaction rating. Basically what this means is that every single member of the Unitrends entire organization gets a report every day that talks about how our customers feel they have been treated by interacting with the Unitrends support or sales system from the previous day. And they self-report a very high level of satisfaction. And that's really what we need. You know, we want a ridiculously happy fan base of our customers so that they will tell more and more people about the Unitrends solution, and they will all join our family as well. Now, we do talk about all of the different common problems that people have in backup and disaster recovery scenarios, and I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of these different types of problems. For example, people have lots of problems with their backups, whether or not they're actually able to run their backups or get good reports about backups that have completed. Sometimes customers want to make sure that they can recover their data in different spots. I apologize, I'm getting more comments about people that are unable, for whatever reason, to connect into the audio. Let me mark this out. I know people can't hear me. I'm getting reports from a lot of people that they can. Okay. And then, of course, people have lots of different issues in their particular environment, whether they have tape and they hate their tape solution, whether they want the capability of recovering individual items like emails, whether or not you have a complex environment with physical machines and virtual machines. You're having all kinds of problems and scenarios. The truth is that Unitrends believes that we have excellent solutions to all of these very common problems. In terms of the overall suite of products that Unitrends offers, the foundation of our organization is in local data protection. And by that we mean like an on-site solution, whether it's a physical hardware appliance or it's a virtual appliance that you can install into a Hyper-V or a VMware or even build on your own Linux solution. That's the foundation of our organization. At the top tier, we have a variety of different cloud options for particular customers, whether or not you want to just store a small amount of replicated data up in the cloud for disaster recovery, whether or not you want to archive data long-term in the cloud as long as you want. We have an option called Forever Cloud. Or you want the full top-tier solution where we can actually help you recover your data or even spin up servers in a virtualized environment. Unitrends has a wide variety of capabilities to either allow you to do this at Unitrends or help you do it yourself if you have your own DR site. And in the middle, we have an additional product called Reliable DR. Reliable DR is an orchestration and auditing tool. And basically, I like to talk about Reliable DR as the icing on the cake. Basically, it's this additional layer of protection, disaster recovery assurance that sits on top of the entire Unitrends solution. Whether you have a full DR site, whether you're replicating data to Unitrends, or whether or not you're just wanting to run your backups and make sure the backups work correctly. It's a nice option. And this option, the Reliable DR, is fully integrated with all of the Unitrends solutions, or it can be purchased separately as its own product. So the overall features and benefits of the Unitrends solution, we like to say that we can do a little bit of everything. We can back up physical machines. We can back up virtual machines, network-attached storage devices. We can even back up Cisco UCS switch profiles natively, something that only one other company in the world can do, as far as I know. We also have the capabilities of backing up your data the way that you want it to be backed up. I was talking with a customer, or actually a reseller, up in Canada recently, and he was saying that they were using a different backup and disaster recovery product for their customers, and it was a product that only backs up virtual environments. And what he does is when he goes to a particular customer, if they have some physical servers, he mandates that they virtualize those servers to make it easier for him to back up the data, which is great from that particular partner's perspective, but it doesn't really help the customer. Sometimes customers don't want that, and they're being forced to do something that they don't necessarily want to do. With Unitrends, you don't have to worry about that. We can back up your data and help you according to whatever kind of scenario you currently have available. So if you have physical machines, that's no problem. You have virtual machines, no problem. It's actually our sweet spot. We like the more complex environments. We also support very old operating systems. Like if you happen to have IBM iSeries, AS400, even Windows NT 4.0 or 3.1, we support those natively. And you'd be surprised. We have customers all the time that talk about those types of solutions. In fact, about 6 months ago, I had a customer who had a drill press. It was a machine shop, and they had this really old, very expensive drill press. We're talking like $100,000 piece of equipment. And basically, they've had it for so many years that when they got it, it had Windows NT 4.0 on it. And they're not able to upgrade the operating system because if they do that, then they wouldn't be able to continue to use the drill press. So with this particular customer, they were very excited to hear that we could back up a physical Windows NT system natively, save them a ton of money, and makes them very happy. Of course, we also have all the other bells and whistles that you want a good backup and disaster recovery solution to be able to provide. We have 256 AES encryption, which is current federal level encryption for the United States. We have deep integration into primary databases like SQL, SharePoint, Oracle, and Exchange. With SharePoint and Exchange, we can help you recover individual items, files, emails, contact, calendar items. Very simple, very easy. With SQL, we have native tools that we can communicate with SQL and back SQL data up very well. We can actually back up individual SQL databases, and when you restore them, you can restore them to the same SQL server or migrate it to a newer SQL server, or if you back it up using a transaction log backup type, we can actually help you roll back a Microsoft SQL server down to the individual second according to its transaction logs. Very powerful tool from Unitrends. Since Unitrends has been around for 25 years, we actually have a long history of doing bare metal recoveries. For those of you that are still that have physical servers, that's very important. You want the capability of taking that data and recovering it either to the same physical server, or if you have a true disaster, you want to be able to recover it to a similar or dissimilar physical server. That's a big deal. I helped a customer fairly recently, and we walked through the process of doing a initial setup for his environment, and he had a crash. And when he had a crash, he was able to recover that data to dissimilar hardware on a Saturday when calling into support and getting some help. He was able to do it in under 70 minutes. Completely recovered, brand new equipment to a completely dissimilar server. Very, very impressive. So let's talk about the Unitrends architecture. How does the Unitrends appliance itself or the Unitrends solution itself fit into particular environments? So we have two major options. One is the hardware appliance, and we have hardware appliances of all different shapes and sizes. So for example, if you have a very small environment, we have small appliances, and if we have your large environments, we have Unitrends appliances that have, I think, 97 terabytes raw, so almost 100 terabytes raw capacity. And of course, the Unitrends appliances are stackable. So we have many customers that have hundreds upon hundreds of terabytes, in which case they can easily stack different Unitrends appliances and get a solution that would fit virtually every organization. We also have that virtual deployment, what we call the Unitrends Enterprise Backup. And this is basically our software package. And you can take the software package and deploy it as a standalone VMware virtual machine or a Hyper-V virtual machine, or even build it onto a standalone physical Linux server. The difference, of course, is that our Recovery Series hardware appliance really has everything that you need to literally drop it in place and have backups running within just a few minutes, meaning it has the processors, the memory, the storage, and that software package all built together. Now, once you select a Unitrends solution and you add it into your particular environment, we can see and back up everything. That's our big claim to fame. We can back up the physical machines, the virtual machines, all of your data, no matter where it is. Then, most of our customers will try to get roughly 2 to 4 weeks worth of backup data on the appliance itself. Of course, you can get more than that, but then we would have to talk about the size of the Unitrends solution. For example, I had a customer that mandated he wanted 6 months worth of backup data on the Unitrends appliance itself. That's fine, but it would be a larger appliance than if you were just getting 4 weeks worth of data. Once you have the data on the Unitrends appliance, many of our customers have requirements of keeping data for long term. Many customers have to keep data for 7 years for tax purposes. We actually work a lot with mortgage companies or banks where they have to keep their data much longer. Like a mortgage company has to keep their data for 30 to 40 years minimum. So we have options for helping our customers do that. So an archive job from a Unitrends perspective is very easy. It's basically just a copy process. So we have the backup data on the Unitrends solution itself, and then we're copying that data to some other media target. Now you can utilize a section of a storage network or a network-attached storage device and kind of just put that in the same environment, keep it local, and store your data there as long as you like. That's no problem. Some customers have tape in their environment and they want to continue to utilize that. That's not a problem as well. You just tell us what type of adapter you have, and then we can get an add-in card to set up a tape appliance, no problem. Some customers have tape and they hate tape. Tape is a 1953 technology. It's a lot older than people realize. It's older than Corvettes, let's put it that way. And we have another option for those people that want to get away from tape, and that's the Recovery Archive Unit, or RXDA. Basically, this is a separate 1U rack mount chassis with bays for removable eSATA hard drives. So you can take your backup data, copy it to a hard drive, or stripe it across multiple hard drives, and then take those hard drives out and take them and put them into another location. So you have a lot of options and capabilities with Unitrends. In addition, we have the capability of sending data to public cloud providers. So for example, let's say you already use an Amazon S3 cloud and you want to take some of your critical data, encrypt it, and put it up into that cloud, Unitrends can help you do that as well. And of course, we have our own Unitrends cloud, like I said before, where you can archive your data forever. The third piece of the puzzle is what we call backup replication. And with backup replication, you have a lot of options here. And a lot of this depends on whether or not you have multiple sites or a disaster recovery facility, or you want to use Unitrends to help you manage your disaster recovery solution, or basically just send your data to another site that's far away. So with backup replication, what we're doing is we're taking a copy of your data that's on your Unitrends solution. And this can be everything, or it can be a subset of your data. And then you're copying it to some other location. If you have a secondary site or a DR site, you can get another Unitrends solution, whether it's a hardware appliance or a virtual appliance, and then you can take your main data, copy it from your main site, and send it to your secondary site for disaster recovery purposes. That way, if you have a flood and your entire environment goes down, you can do spin-ups and recovery at that secondary site. Now, if you don't have a second site, or you don't have a DR location, or you just don't want to be bothered, you want someone else to manage it for you, you can do that through Unitrends. So you can take your data, send it up to the Unitrends data center cloud, and if you need that back, we can take that data back and ship it to you. Let's say you had a flood and you lose your Unitrends appliance in the flood. we can actually take your data, put it onto a replacement appliance, and ship that replacement appliance to you next business day. Now, next business day, that might be a day or so, right? So with Unitrends, for some customers, that's a day or so too long. So customers want the capability of spinning up their environment much quicker. If that's the case, our top tier offering is called Disaster Recovery as a Service. With Disaster Recovery as a Service, we can actually spin up VMware virtual machines, Hyper-V virtual machines, or even Windows physical servers in a virtualized data center at the Unitrends cloud in a 1-hour time frame. That's awesome. So if you have a true disaster like a flood, then you can contact Unitrends and we will spin up your environment in 60 minutes or less. Very powerful option. So hopefully you see a little bit of the capabilities of the Unitrends solution and how it would fit into your particular environment from an architecture standpoint. And the best part about this is I like to talk about these options as different layers of protection. And some customers are interested in certain layers, and other customers are interested in others. That's one of the best features about Unitrends. You get to back up and archive your data and do your disaster recovery the way that you want it to be accomplished. You know, it's awesome. I kind of joke, I get a little excited about the Unitrends backup and disaster recovery solutions, but we know that most people are not as excited as a Unitrends engineer about backups. We know to most of the world, backups are more along the lines of going to the dentist, right? You know, it's something you know you have to do, but you don't really look forward to it. We get that. So some of the other options here that I like to mention, we know that choosing a new backup and disaster recovery provider can be an expensive proposition. You know, it involves change, and change is always uncomfortable. But Unitrends and Optrics wants to make this as easy and as comfortable for you as possible. A couple of things here to highlight going from the bottom up is that customer satisfaction. You know, we want you to be safe and secure with your backup solution, and we want you to be very confident that if you ever actually have a problem, we guarantee we'll help you as best we can, and most of our customers are ridiculously happy. The other thing is that everything's included. You don't have to worry about nickel and dime charges from a Unitrends perspective. Basically, if you buy a hardware appliance, you don't have to worry about client level or agent level licensing. Everything's included, no limits licensing. And then if you do go with that hardware solution, Unitrends has a program called Pledge. Pledge basically translates into free hardware forever. And the way this works is that you buy a Unitrends hardware appliance, and then you sign up for that 3-year or longer support contract. At the end of the 3 years, when you are already a ridiculously happy customer and you happily sign up for a new support contract, we will ship you brand new hardware for free of the same solution or a new hardware refresh. Like we actually just had a hardware refresh in January. So a lot of our customers that are in this plan are getting access to the newer equipment, which makes them very happy. You know, that's exactly what we want. I often get questions about what's the catch. There is no catch. The catch here is that we're trying to get more people on a 3-year support contract, and you know that helps you, it helps us, and it makes sure that our support team doesn't have to worry about supporting 10-year-old equipment. You know, most of our equipment in the field now is going to be 3 years old or newer. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. It's a great program. Okay, so let's do this. Let me jump into the user interface. I will give you a quick tour of the Unitrends solution, kind of showcase some of the major highlights and benefits and how easy it is to get everything up and running. And then we'll talk about some next steps about how you can get some options for purchasing or even try the solution on your own. Well, let's do that. So this is the Unitrends user interface. It is a web-based interface, but what we're doing here is you're logging in locally to your appliance on your network. And that's very important. You know, there are some backup and disaster recovery solutions out there that force you to go to a web portal or a web service in order to manage your backups and recovery. From a Unitrends perspective, that's a little silly or a little crazy because we know that in the case of a true disaster or a problem, the first thing that you lose is going to be your internet connection. And so if you have to rely on your internet in order to do your recovery, you're dead in the water. That's no good. So with Unitrends, you don't have to worry about that. So we have these primary tiles, like tabs, across the top of the screen. Status will show you the health of your machine. Backup is where you set up your backup jobs. Restore is when you want to restore data. You know, pretty self-explanatory across the top. And I'll talk about each one of them in turn. On the left-hand side, we have a navigation panel. The navigation panel shows you your different Unitrends installations in your particular environment. In my environment, I actually have two Unitrends solutions that are communicating with each other. One is in Burlington, Massachusetts, where Unitrends has its headquarters. And the other one is in Columbia, South Carolina, where we have our support and our development and engineering teams. When I want to work on one, I just pop it open, and I can see all of the systems and servers in that particular environment. It's very helpful if you have a wide variety of offices or sites, and you want to manage everything from one panel, from one interface. It just makes things so easy. On the right-hand side, we always see relevant details, what we call the main stage. And right now, we're seeing the status of our Burlington environment, and we're seeing the health of all of the servers. Green is good. If we had an error, that would be in red. That would be bad. And then yellow just means a minor warning. And I had a customer who he had a backup and disaster recovery solution that was giving him what's called a false positive, meaning that he gets a report saying that his backup ran correctly, but when he actually tries to recover data, he was unable to do that. That's a big problem. A false positive really gives you a false sense of security in your backup solution, and it erodes trust, with your current provider. So Unitrends doesn't have that problem. And when this particular customer went to a Unitrends solution, I helped him set up his equipment, and he said he went a little crazy. So every single day for 3 weeks, he would do a test restore of every single backup job, every one, for 3 weeks from every server. And he called me back after the end of that 3-week period, and he said, "Hey, Dave, I have news for you. Green is good, red is bad. Simple as that." So he was very assured that he was able to recover data when he wanted to. So let's talk about backups. Many of our customers have VMware in their environment, so I'll showcase how to do backups from a VMware setup first. So you go to backup at the top. We're going to go to the VMware environment, and we can see all of the VMware virtual machines in this particular setup. So if I wanted to create a scheduled job, it's so easy. I give it a name, I give it a description, I pick the machines that I want to back up, and then I pick the schedule. Schedule is easy. I can do the standard fulls on the weekends and differentials or incrementals throughout the week, or we can use the incremental forever strategy, which is the recommended strategy for most environments from a Unitrends perspective. Think of it as basically an automated incremental forever job, a full incremental job. So the way it works is you do one full backup right now, and then all you have to worry about are scheduling incrementals. You can do them once per day. You can do them in intervals of hours or even minutes. So then the Unitrends appliance itself will run all of those incrementals and periodically take those incrementals and stitch them together to create a new full backup for you on the fly, on the Unitrends appliance itself, using only incrementals that have completed successfully. So it doesn't require you to go back and rerun a full job or to pull new data from your particular environment. So like I said, an automated process, and it's very impressive. It works very well. It really eliminates the need to do those very large, full backup jobs every weekend. I have customers who routinely tell me that they have a very long backup windows every weekend. Like I had a customer who said he had an 83-hour backup job every weekend. That's like kicking it off on Friday at 7 p.m. and not having it continue or finish until like Tuesday morning. From a Unitrends perspective, that's crazy. There are better ways of doing that. For all of these machines, you can, of course, these are VMware virtual machines, and these are being backed up at the VMware image-based level without an agent. And I can even back up underlying database structures all in one pass. Or I can add the Unitrends agent to any of these virtual machines, treat them as if they were a standalone physical server, because a physical server, of course, doesn't have that hypervisor, and we would need to add an agent to back up physical machines. Otherwise, we don't have any way to communicate with them. But the benefit of adding the agent to those particular machines is that now you see the breakout for the underlying database structure for Exchange and SQL and SharePoint and Oracle. So for example, with SQL, if I click on this level on the SQL system, I can see the underlying SQL Server databases, which means I can back up the underlying database structure on its own separate schedule. That's great because it allows me to back up that data however I want, the way that I want to back up that system. It really makes things very convenient. When we do restores, sticking with the SQL system, I go to Restore at the top. And now I can actually restore individual SQL level data. So I can restore a SQL system individually on its own, to either to its own location, or I can restore it to a different SQL server. So for example, if you have a bunch of 2008 SQL machines and you're migrating to a 2012, you can migrate that data through a backup job through Unitrends. Very, very nice option. With Exchange, we also have the capability of restoring Exchange. So you can take that Exchange data, and then you have two options. Since this is a full Exchange system, I can either recover an entire Exchange environment, which, let's be honest, no one really wants to do that, right? That means your entire Exchange environment is down. But Unitrends makes this as easy as possible. You can restore it to its original location or an alternate location, meaning an alternate server. And you have some additional options here where you can run, for example, pre and post commands to kind of clean that data up. Or let's say the Exchange system is fine. You just want to recover some individual files and folders. Now that's easy. So from a Unitrends perspective, all we do is essentially mount that backup job onto the Unitrends appliance itself, and then we have a backup tool, a desktop tool. And the desktop tool can see all of those individual emails and contacts and calendar items, and can search and sort and filter, find what you need, and then literally drag it and drop it into any inbox, any live inbox. You can even take, let's say you had to fire someone, you can take all of their data, put all of their data to a PST file, and send that PST file over to a like a legal department for analysis. So you have a lot of options with Unitrends. So what about VMware? Let's say you have a VMware virtual machine and you want to restore that. No problem. So you select your machine, and then you have two options. Either you can recover that entire VM, or you can just get some files and folders from the VM. If I wanted to restore an entire virtual machine, that's really easy. The first thing that will happen is the Unitrends system will take a look at your available ESX environment, tell you which ones are still up and running. That's great in a disaster. You know exactly what's going on. So you can select the location of where you want to send that virtual machine. You can pick a data store. You can even assign a resource pool. You can even do instant recovery, where you can take this virtual machine and basically use the Unitrends appliance as shared storage to spin this machine up instantly off of the Unitrends appliance itself, allow your users to gain access to that VM, that resource, and then your version of storage vMotion will actually take the backup data and migrate it to the correct data store, to the correct ESX server on the fly while your users are actively using the machine. Very nice. So let's say the VM itself is fine, but you just need some files. That's the second option over here. And this is very similar to that process for Exchange. And let me show you this one. So this one is using a full and incremental series. This one only has 2. Sometimes it'll have as many as a dozen. And it says no disk image exists, hit create to build one. So all I'm doing here is hitting create. I'm building out this Unitrends solution. And basically it's taking an image-based backup and rebuilding it onto the Unitrends appliance itself and creating a browsable, searchable file structure on the appliance itself. There we go. Quicker than I can explain it. And all it's doing to me is presenting a network path. Oh, I've lost my mouse. Where's my mouse? Here we go. So it presents to me a network path which just points to the appliance and a file share. And all I do is I copy this, I open up a Windows Explorer panel, I paste that link out. Oh, you can't see that, that's on my other screen. Hang on a sec. There we go. So I paste the link out, and now when I browse to it, I can see all of the files and folders as they existed at a specific point in time. So as you can tell, this process basically just took an image-based backup and rebuilt it onto the appliance in a place where I can browse it and find the files. And we're talking, what, 40 seconds to kind of figure out what's going on? It's a very, very quick process. I tell people that with Unitrends, recovering files should be a lot quicker than having that conversation with your coworker. What file did you lose? I guarantee it. I guarantee recovering the file is going to be quicker. Let me tear that down for the next demonstration. All right. So we've talked about the status of the Unitrends solution. We've talked about how easy it is to start up those backup jobs. We've talked about restoring data and how easy it is to restore data from VMware virtual machines, SQL machines, even Exchange data. Very quick, very easy. Let's talk about archives. So archives, remember, from a Unitrends perspective, an archive is basically a copy job. So we have data that's on the Unitrends appliance itself, and what we're doing is we're taking that data and copying it to some other target media. It's easy. So all you do is if you wanted to do a recurring scheduled archive job, you give it a name, you give it a description, you tell the machine what you want to grab. Do you want to grab the last good backups? Or do you want to grab all of the backups over a certain time frame? like an end of the month is very common. You pick which systems you want to get the data from. You pick the type of backups, like the masters or fulls or everything. You tell it where you want to send the data, like that recovery archive unit, that hard drive solution. Whether or not you want to encrypt it, federal level encryption, literally with one click. And then how long do you want to keep this data set? You want to keep it for 7 days, 7 weeks, or 7 years? Lots of options. And then you just pick the day. Simple, easy. One of the other features that I haven't mentioned so far is the feature that we call Windows Instant Recovery. Windows Instant Recovery allows individuals in their organizations to identify a Windows server, whether it's a virtual server or, more impressively, a Windows physical server. And we can take that physical server, run a backup, and create a standby clone copy, a virtual machine, of that particular server directly on the Unitrends hardware appliance itself. So imagine this. Let's say you have a critical Windows physical server in your environment. You start this process and you have basically a standby copy in a virtual manner directly on the appliance itself. Then let's say that machine has a failure. Let's say it has a hardware failure, like a motherboard failure. You know, a lot of times if you have a physical server and you have a hardware failure, like a motherboard, you're going to be down for days. And it takes a couple of days to go buy a new, motherboard, and then a couple of days to replace it and make sure it works correctly. With Unitrends, instead of being down for days, you can be down just for a couple of minutes. So you can identify this machine, turn it on, and tell this machine even how many processors and memory you want to use when you send it live. Fantastic. And then that machine is up and running in that particular environment, and your users can gain access, do whatever they need to do. Even your backups, your backup jobs will continue on this machine on your regularly scheduled schedule without any intervention from you. So if this machine is being backed up every hour, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to continue to be backed up every hour while you fix your physical server in the background. And when you are ready to put that physical server back into place, you turn the physical server on, take the backup data from here, copy it to your, do a restore to that physical machine, turn the virtual machine off, and that one back on, and you're good to go. Great option, Windows Instant Recovery. The last thing that I'm going to highlight are some of our reports. I'll just highlight one in particular. Unitrends has a variety of different reports that work very well to help you keep tabs in your environment. And Unitrends is all about trying to help you as the customer, as the end user, keep good tabs on your system and make sure that things are working correctly. The one report that I'll run is called Capacity. Capacity is very easy. Basically what we do here is we're taking a look at all the systems and servers in the environment and giving you information about how much data you're backing up according to different types of backup jobs. Now, this is good information and it's helpful to have, and you can keep some running numbers here so you can know how much data you're backing up in your environment. But with one click, we know that this report is kind of convoluted and it's a little messy. So with one click, with all of our reports, we can change it into a chart or a graph with Pac-Man colors so that you can easily see what's going on in your particular environment. And I want to tell you, these are random. The colors are random. It's rare that it's that bright, crazy yellow. But with all of our reports, now you can print it up and you can showcase it to the boss, right? The bosses all love their pretty little charts. We know that. So right here in this particular environment, I can tell that most of my data, 77% of my backup data, is from my VMware setup. It's great. It gives us a real quick, easy view of exactly what's going on in our environment. No more worrying about having to download all of your data, bring it into Excel, find the guy who in the company can do the Excel reports, and print them all up, forget that. Unitrends will do it all for you. So those are the major highlights of the Unitrends product offering and all of the additional features and solutions. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to find out if anyone has any additional questions or anything they'd like to see in greater detail. And while we do that, I'll talk a little bit about some of the features of the Unitrends website. So if anyone has any additional questions, just enter them into the Q&A within the WebEx interface at the top of the screen, and I'll see them and I'll answer them for everyone. So while people are putting in their questions, let me do this. Unitrends has a very robust website with lots of information here. A couple of things to highlight. Number one is the free trial. So if you're interested in checking out the Unitrends solution, basically you can just go to that free trial. You can enter in some information here and download your copy. Try it out, see how it works. Simple and easy. In addition, if you're curious about the backup appliances and what backup appliance might work well in your particular setup, we actually have a backup appliance navigator where you can enter in some basic information about your environment, how much your total data size is, how much retention you want to get on the appliance, and then select some options, whether or not you want to do archiving, replicate data, or use encryption. And then the Unitrends interface here will give you some recommendations. It'll even give you a recommendation, give you a link. And so you can click on that link and find more information about that particular appliance, including all of its specs, all of its features, including additional options. And then one other item that I like to always highlight from the Unitrends website is the video tutorials. So we have a section here that's designed specifically for new users. So you can take a look at all of the different options from Unitrends. And for example, if you want to get more detail on VMware, how to do certain things, how to recover data or how to do specific backups, you can click on this section and watch just a couple of very brief, like 4-minute videos to get information about what's going on in your particular environment. All right, so I am getting a couple of questions, and what I'd like to do is I'll go through and answer a few of these, and then we can wrap up and talk about some next steps in our particular setup here. So Sophie is asking virtual machine backup. Says your virtual machine backup is separate with flat file backup, or is it available in the same manage interface? So Sophie, the nice thing here is that with Unitrends you have options. So when we go to backup, I can go to my VMware virtual environment and I can see my virtual machines, and I can back up my VMware virtual machines, image-based backup without an agent. And this would be a backup of the entire environment and back up everything in that particular machine. Okay, all image-based. Or I can add that machine as if it was a standalone physical server, and that gives me the capability of doing file-level backup of that particular machine, and I can even do inclusions or exclusions. So I'll give you my example here. I had a customer who had he had a very large file server with about 6 terabytes worth of data. But that was the landing zone for all of his developers to do testing. So he said it was a 6 terabyte system, but about 5 terabytes of it was complete junk. And he didn't want to back it up, didn't want to bother, didn't want to take up space on his Unitrends solution. So instead, what he wanted to do is he wanted to add this machine as if it was a standalone physical server, but then create a specific inclusion list that would only include the files and folders that he was interested in. So it's real easy. Basically, you create an inclusion list, and you can see into this system. And let's say you only want to back up the D drive. And you can add that. Of course, you can do it by folder. You can even do it by pattern if you want. So, for example, if you only want to back up this folder, you can do that. Or you only want to back up certain types of files, you can do that too. So there are a lot of options from Unitrends. And Sophie, hopefully that answers your question. I'm getting an additional question. Looks like it's from Jason. He wants to know about our support. How do we do support? So Unitrends has full 24/7, 365 support. We take support very seriously at Unitrends, starting with the little things like actually answering the phones to, fully getting back to customers as quickly as possible if you happen to send us like an email. Now, you can access support in a variety of ways, whatever's most comfortable for you. You can call, you can email, you can do online chat, and we have full support in different regions of the world, so that if you happen to have a team in the UK, they can dial the UK specific numbers. All of our support is handled by our North American team, and I say it's full 365. We're kind of a fun little family at Unitrends, and every year on New Year's and on Christmas, they send us a picture of our support team working hard in the support environment, the call center, having pizza or having a nice Christmas dinner or whatever the case is. So yes, we do fully support 24/7, 365, incredible dedication to support. And it looks like that was the last question. Does anybody else have any additional questions or anything they'd like to see in more detail? Yeah, it looks like we're getting one from Sophie. Can you do backups in minutes or is it just hourly? Do you need to install agents for this? We have a data server and email server that we'd like to talk about. So you have a couple of options. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So for example, if it's a virtual machine and you have a machine that you want to back up, if you're doing that incremental forever strategy, you can do it every hour. That's easy. You can do it in intervals of minutes. That's a little tricky. It depends on the size of that particular environment. We usually recommend maybe 30 minutes or 15 minutes. I do have some customers that get very aggressive with their backup windows. I do have a customer that does it every 5 minutes. Of course, that can be a problem depending on the size of the data and how frequent that changes. You got to be careful about that. But yes, you have a lot of options here for recovering your data as quickly as you like. I'm getting another question. Looks like the last one from Jason. How many backups could a Unitrends? Jason is messing with me. He's trying to get me to do a tongue twister. Nice, Jason. You almost got me there. Thanks. All right. So last comment here. Next steps. So what we're going to do is we are going to follow up with everyone that's on the call today. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, you can contact any of your providers over at Optrics. They have information here. You can email them or give them a call. We also have the capability of getting you quotes and getting you that free trial. And we'll send you that information at the end of the seminars. Oh, Jason is actually sending me a follow-up conversation after the joke that he sent me, and he says that he actually has an 813 and a 713, and he loves them. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that.
Perfect. Well, we've run out of time. Although, in a minute, can you explain how the licensing options are different from the virtual software appliance to the physical appliance? Maybe quickly touch on the hardware warranty.
Sure, absolutely. So the warranty is the easiest thing to talk about. The warranty, if you are a Unitrends customer, we support everything from top to bottom. If you have any kind of problem with anything related to Unitrends, we will fix it or replace it. Simple as that. So if you have an appliance and you've had it for 7 years and it has a hard drive failure, you call us, we ship you a new hard drive or get you a new appliance. Easy as that. In terms of the licensing, we try to make things as easy as possible with the licensing. So the licensing for the hardware appliance is done by capacity, total amount of data that you're trying to protect in your environment. And then we get you the right size appliance, and everything is included. With the virtual machines, we do have a little bit more flexibility. And so a capacity license usually makes the most sense for customers. But we also have the option to go through the old school licensing model where we can pick the total number of processors, hypervisors, individual machines, that kind of stuff. And we would actually go through both scenarios and tell you which is cheaper. So like I said, we try to make it as easy as possible for all of our customers.
Excellent. Thanks for that, David. Great presentation. I hope everyone was able to get their questions answered and enjoyed this the presentation and found it worth your time. Again, this is Scott from Optrics, and I'll be following up with everyone via email by the end of the day with a link to the free trial. But of course, in the meantime, if you want to give us a shout, feel free to give us a call, 780-430-6240. All right, folks, have a great day, and we'll chat soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.